So morning everyone. So here at Simplified Academy, we offer 3 papers currently. We are still looking to offer the third paper, which is paper 3, but essentially right now we are offering paper 1, paper 2, and paper 4. So our price list is like this. It's 650 once off. You can pay this amount in 3 installments or a once-off payment. You attend till you pass. What does this mean? This means that you pay once, you go write the exam now, we help you, and then if you don't pass, we will help you in the next exam session for free. Even the third one, but the third one, there are terms and conditions that are very strict. Thank you for that little time. And now we are going to deal with the August exam 2023. So let's just open the exam and let's break it down before we can go to the memorandum. The November 2023 board exam. There we go. We opened question 1. Sorry, I don't have a proper paper because I was not writing. I do not have the paper. So when it comes to paper 2, this is paper 2, 2023 August. If you're going to write it for the first time in 2024, this is going to be my advice to you. Essentially, this is an advice to people who are going to be writing in 2023. Sorry, 2024. So essentially, when it comes to the estates, if I can personally say it, estates is like the second easiest paper right after bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is the simplest paper, then estates is the second most like it's easy, it's simple, it follows after bookkeeping. Paper 1 also, I don't know where to place it, but it's not complicated. It's there just to show whether you are a lawyer or not. I think that's where they test you to see if you can be a good attorney or not in paper 1. Paper 3 is the difficult one. I think they use this paper to gatekeep, to keep you out of the profession. They use paper 3 because it's complicated. It doesn't have a structure that we can say like the other 3. The first one is drafting for criminal and civil. The second one, paper 2, it's for estates, wills. The third one, okay, I'll talk about it last. And then the fourth one, it's accounting. But the third paper, it's so complicated because it incorporates everything. They just want you to know a bunch of information, but they do give you a syllabus. Well, can't say much about the syllabus, but yeah, it's not that deep. Okay, now let's deal with question 1. Not question 1. Let's just give an overview of the estates paper. So when it comes to the estates paper, you need to know essentially 3 main things. There are 3 main things for you to know in order to pass this paper. Thing number 1 is you need to know the liquidation and distribution. I mean, this is part number 1. You can pass with it alone. If you completely know what you're doing here, you can pass. You can just go in the exam, write liquidation and distribution and pass. But it's not that simple. It's a little bit complicated. So question 1 is going to be your liquidation and distribution. That is the first thing that you need to know. You need a structure for that. Number 2, you need to know interstate succession. There's like 15 marks or 13 marks for interstate succession theory, where you need to distribute assets according to interstate succession law. The third thing that you need to know wills. You need to know the principle that applies to wills. That is all you need to know. You don't need to know a lot of information. Only 3 things: interstate, liquidation and distribution, and the third thing is you need to know the will. You need to know how a will works, the codical, what is the codical of a will, when the will is invalid in terms of the requirements that are given, how do you deal with that? Things like those, you need to know them thoroughly in order for you to pass this paper. So let's get into it. Here was the question 1 for the 2023 August exam. As usual, it was the liquidation and the distribution account. So there were a lot of complaints. I saw a lot of complaints after the exam. Many people were complaining that the Afrikaans paper and the English paper were different. Well, that is an issue for another day. I haven't seen the Afrikaans paper. Even if I see it, it wouldn't make any difference to me. I don't know how to read Afrikaans. Okay, now let's talk about this paper. Can I just give my honest review? This paper was simple. Paper was straightforward. Nothing complicated here. Let's get into it. So as we look at question 1, we see a person called Fraser who died interstate on 30 June 2022. He is survived by his mother Rose, his illegitimate daughter Angela, who was born on 13 December 2001, and Angela's mother Teresa Bam. You are appointed as the executor to attend to the administration of the estate. You are not registered for that. So by just reading that small little paragraph right there, I already know that Fraser only has one heir according to interstate succession. According to the interstate succession, when you die, your assets will go to your descendants, your children, if you are not married. This guy, Fraser Watson, was not married, so he only has a daughter, Angela, who is illegitimate. Illegitimate simply means she was born out of wedlock. The law doesn't care much about being born out of wedlock. Whether you were born in a marriage or out of the marriage, it's fine with the law. You are still regarded as 100% a child of that person. So Angela is the only descendant who remains because Fraser was not married, and his mother Rose, well, she is his mother. If Angela did not exist, then his mother would inherit, but his mother is not going to inherit because there is a descendant of Fraser. Okay, and then you are the executor. Thank you for that. Okay, and then we continue reading. As we continue reading this statement, it shows us what this guy left behind in his estate. Before we start dealing with what he left in the estate, let's just go down and see what is happening below the question. Okay, there, we will deal with that later. Let's just deal with each thing individually. I just want to give you a little background. I won't go much into it because obviously I'm just trying to highlight my skills. I'm just trying to highlight the course that we have here at Simplified. I want to show you guys how you should answer so that you can join us and then you can pass well. Okay, let's start. Number 1. So this guy Fraser left a farm, orange farm, on which he farmed citrus fruits, which has been valued by an appraiser. So when something is valued, we take the value. Obviously, we're going to take the 1.4 million. It's going to be the value of the farm. That is the amount we're going to use to calculate the assets of Mr. Fraser. Farm implements, that is a movable property. Obviously, we're going to count it also. And then number 3 says a whole life policy insurance taken out and effected by Fraser's employer on Fraser's life. With a maturity value of 3.5 million, the proceeds were paid to the employer. Okay, as I'm reading this one, I'm noticing that Fraser is not the beneficiary of the policy. It has a named beneficiary, the employer. So when a policy has a named beneficiary, it does not fall under the property or asset of the deceased. So we are not going to include this one here. Although we are going to include it in the estate addendum under deemed property. So what is deemed property? Deemed property, it's property that would not be considered as property in the normal sense, but for estate duty purposes, it's going to be considered as property of the deceased. So only under estate duty, when we are calculating estate duty, we're going to consider this policy here from Holland. Then we have number 4. Proceeds of Liberty Life Insurance policy on his life payable to his father, Alan Watson, who predeceased him in the amount of 125,000. When we are dealing with a policy like this, it had a named beneficiary, but the beneficiary died before the policy could pay out. And Watson didn't bother to change the beneficiary. He just left his father as the beneficiary or something like that. The beneficiary was not changed. And when he died, we will say that there was no beneficiary because his father died. Why doesn't this life policy go to Watson's father? The reason why it's not going to go to him is because when you have a policy, you have interest to the money. You do not have the money yet. Only in the event that this guy died and the person who was named the beneficiary was still alive, he was going to get the policy. That's when he was going to get the money. But meanwhile, the person was still alive. You only had an interest, and interest cannot be transferred. So that interest was not transferred. Okay, it can, but it was not transferred. Since the interest was not transferred, the policy has no named beneficiary because the father died, so there is no named beneficiary. I don't know if that explanation was clear, but let's move. If you didn't understand that explanation, just know that there was no named beneficiary because the person who was supposed to inherit the money is dead. So there's no named beneficiary. So the policy would automatically pay out to the deceased estate. Then we have number 5. Proceeds of Sanlam life insurance policy on his life payable to Angela as nominated beneficiary in the amount of 50,000. Here again, we have a policy with a named beneficiary, which is the daughter. We are not going to count it as a policy because it's going to go to the daughter, Angela. So this is not going to form part of the estate of Fraser. There was an old mutual insurance policy on Teresa's life with a maturity value of 500,000 and a surrender value of 160,000. Again, in this question here, the policy did not fulfill its its obligations. Why? Teresa is still alive. This policy was taken out by Fraser. Fraser is dead. Teresa is still alive. So automatically we have to cancel the policy because the person who was paying for it can no longer pay for it. So when we cancel the policy, we get the surrender value, which means it's going to be an asset. The 160 is the one we're going to take, not the 500,000. Then we have the furniture, which was valued. That is going to be an immovable property. It's a property of the deceased. Then there was a Toyota Land Cruiser valued at 300,000. The executor sold this vehicle for 280 during the course of the liquidation. The proceeds were paid into the estate bank account. An outstanding amount of 49,800 is due, and this is payable to Nest Bank in respect of a settlement of the credit agreement. Okay, guys, when I read this question, what I automatically get is there is a sold for price. If there's one thing that you must learn from what we are doing here today, it's just one main thing that you need to learn and know. The sold for price, it's preferred above any other price. If something is sold, that is its value. Even though it has a different value, but if it's sold for a different price, the price that it was sold for, we're going to say it's its value. That's the value of the thing. So we're going to take the sold for price always. That's what we prefer above anything. Yes. And then the 49,800, this one we're going to use it as a liability. That amount is going to be regarded as a liability because it's money that is owed. It's going to be claim against estate. The 49,800 is going to go under liabilities, claims against estate. What is claims against estate? It's liabilities that the deceased had before he died. That's what it is. Number 9, Standard Bank current account with the balance at date of death in the amount of 19,000. The executor closed the account and the amount collected was 18,700. Wonderful. When we are dealing with this one here, I know it might have been confusing for people a little bit, just a little bit, not too much. So the price that we are going to show or reflect in the assets of Fraser, it's going to be 19,000. Why? This is the amount that he had in the bank account before he died. We are not going to put the 18,700 that was collected. We are only going to put the 19,000. Then we are going to say 19,000 minus 18,700, and it's going to give us 300. The 300, it's what we call expenditure. It goes into the income and expenditure account. You know what the expenditure and income account does? It takes in income and expenditures that were made after the guy died. That's where we reflect the difference in that current account, number 9. Then we have number 10, upside investment account with the capital amount of 612,000, which accrued 22,000 at the date of death. The executor closed the account and the amount collected was 636,000. Okay, so this is an investment account. This scenario is kind of the same as the scenario above. We only show the amount that the guy had on the day he died. So this guy, the day he died, he had a capital amount of 612. We are going to show the 612, that is obvious. And then we are also going to show the interest upon the date of death, which is going to be the 22,000. The 22,000 is what we are also going to show. So we are going to say 612,000 plus 22,000. And then the other amount that remains, it's going to be shown in the income and expenditure account. Why? Because it's income that was made after date of death. Let's move on. There were shares in Powerhouse Pty Ltd. These are private shares whose market value as per auditor's valuation and accepted by SARS as at the date of death was 250,000 and were sold in the course for liquidation for 275,000. Now the difference here is that what we are going to put here in the assets of the deceased here, since these shares were sold, we are going to put in 275,000. Why do we always have different valuation and sold for price for private shares? This thing is always there in the exam. The reason why we have that, it's because it's very simple. The reason why we have it, it's because the examiner wants to know whether you know that the difference in private shares has to be accounted for under the property of the deceased in the estate addendum. So the difference in private shares needs to be accounted for in the estate addendum. Okay, let's move on. Number 12. JSE listed shares Sakile Ltd sold during the course of liquidation in the amount of 350. Obviously, for that one, we're just going to put the 350,000 as the value or the sold for price of the shares. Let's move on. And then we have number 13. So under number 13, there is an outstanding balance due to FNB in respect of a credit card. The deceased took out a credit life insurance on his life with Rest Assurance Company, and the outstanding credit card debt at date of death in the amount of 36,000 was settled by them. So guys, this is what we like to call the ceded policy. Even though a policy is ceded, it's still considered as an asset of the deceased. So that policy is going to be placed under the assets of the deceased because it's still considered as his policy. It's also going to be part of liabilities under claims against estate. So the 36,000 is both an asset and a liability. Number 14, there's a mortgage bond registered over the farm in favor of JM Bank with an outstanding balance owing to the bank as at the date of death in the total of 88,280. That is simply a liability. It's going to go under the column of liabilities. And now we come to the part that I loved about the current examiner. This examiner gave you your liabilities. He gave you the administration liabilities, which was beautiful because it's free. How many marks? It's free 10 marks. He gave you 10 marks for free. It was just like, you know what? Let me give them 10 marks for free. You were supposed to just put this on the table for liabilities. And then there were only 2 liabilities that were not included. The master's fee and the executor's fee. Those were the only 2 that you needed to calculate in order for you to be able to get the full administration cost. Yes. And the beneficiary, like I said in this question, it was only who? It was the daughter Angela. So basically, I broke down question 1 for you in that simple term. That is what you were supposed to do. Please, guys, as I'm saying this, remember that before I go to question 2, remember that we are offering a lot of things. As I am going on here, I'm going to be trying to show you different, what do they call it? Different things that we are offering here in our little family, because you are considered as a part of the family when you join us. So let me just, before I go to question 2, let me just show you our payment plan. I'll be doing this throughout. I'll just stop for a few while and then just show you something before we get back into it. Okay, so there's our payment plan. So our payment plan is for those people that say, you know what, our law firms, they pay us less money. They don't give us a lot of money, so we can't pay you the money at once. So if you can't pay me at once, if you can't pay the amount at once, there's a plan for you. Sorry about that. Let me show you the other. If you cannot pay us the money at once, there is a different payment plan. So there's a payment plan that you need to pay 235 per month for 3 months. You can start paying in December, or you can start paying now, beginning of November. Class will start around 27 January. So you can pay and still attend while you haven't finished paying. You will complete your payment afterwards because we trust you. You are proper and fit. Our payment plan goes like this. The class will commence 27 January 2024. Sorry about the 2023, it's 2024. Offer is for either paper 2 or 4, but we offer all papers. Sorry about that. We are only currently offering 3, paper 1, paper 2, and paper 4. Paper 3, we're still working on it. Once off payment, it's 650, but if you take the payment plan, you pay extra 40 Rand. So you will pay an extra 40 Rand if you take the payment plan. So the payment plan, you only pay 235 per month for 3 months, and you join us, you attend till you pass. Thank you for that. Let's continue with our question paper. There we go. Yes. Let's go to question 2. There's our question 2. Okay, so the question 2 here, it was just theory. The examiner just wanted to see what you know. What determines which master of the High Court has jurisdiction to administer a deceased estate? Obviously, it's where the deceased was living when he died. The period doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long he has been there. So let's say this guy stayed at Johannesburg for 40 years, and then he moved to Limpopo and died after 2 days. It doesn't matter. His place is going to be Limpopo because he died there. That's where he was living. Now, okay, under what circumstances can an executor dative be appointed? Okay, you can just read that up. It's when there's no will that selected an executor, something like that. Those are just theoretical questions. I'm not really gonna go over them. I'm going to skip them. And then I'm gonna go to question 3. Okay, so question 3, I'm just gonna go over it a little bit. The reason why I didn't go over question 2 is because those questions are theory questions. They're never gonna ask you those ones again in the coming exam. They're gonna ask you different ones. Now, what matters is this, because this one always runs the same. Question 3. What does question 3 say? Question 3 says that Justin dies interstate and is survived by his wife Kosi, to whom he was married according to customary law in 2021. Before we go any further, I just want to say this. I saw someone didn't know. I saw it somewhere. There's a person who doesn't know that in terms of customary law, if you just get married in terms of customary law, you are automatically married in community of property. They do not need to tell you that you are married in community of property. If you are married in customary law or any marriage, like if you get married, you are married in community of property. That is the underlying rule in South Africa. If you get married, you are automatically in community. Kosi is 7 months pregnant with Justin's child. Obviously, here when it comes to this one, I always forget the term. Is it Nascaturus adage or something like that, where the child will inherit if he's born alive. So we are going to count that child as a child of the deceased. Justin is also survived by the following people. Already we know that there's a wife here who's gonna get half. Already know we already know there's a child. The child who's not born yet. And then number 1 says there's a minor son, Joshua, who renounces his right to inherit. Okay, there's Joshua. Joshua is going to inherit. Even if he says, I do not want to inherit, he's a minor. What does he know? He's going to inherit in terms of interstate succession. So what does Joshua know? The law says Joshua knows nothing. He's going to inherit anyways. Number 2 says his father Soli, who has paid for all the funeral expenses. Sorry, Soli, you decided to pay for the funeral. You are not getting anything. So Soli is not going to get anything. And then his younger sister Martha, who was financially dependent on Justine. Nope, sorry, Martha, you're not getting anything. Also, maybe if you take the estate of the deceased to court, you can get something. But in terms of interstate, you ain't getting nothing. So basically, that's how it works for that family. We are done with that question. Let's move on. Then we have question 4. Question 4, before I start reading question 4, guys, remember, I'm going to show you the memorandum at the end. We have a memorandum. There is a memorandum that we have. I'm going to show it here at the end. Before we go to question 4, I just want to show you another thing here. Real quickly. Let me just show you it real quickly. There we go. Guys, we are also offering oral classes. Our motto for our oral classes is that don't be a hero. Just pay the 250. Will help you with paper 2 or paper 4. And then you're going to pass your exams without a stress. These classes are very effective. Last in March, we only had 3 people that failed. The rest passed. So guys, come join us for our oral classes. It's very effective. It's only 250. Okay, let's continue with our question paper. So question 4. This is the closing argument. Dixon executed a will in which he bequeathed a cash legacy of 600,000 to his girlfriend Melissa. A year later, they had a serious disagreement, and Dixon drew a line through the name of Melissa in his will and wrote his new girlfriend, Gloria's name above Melissa's deleted name. He signed next to it. Dixon died 2 years later, and Melissa, who knew about the bequest to her, now approaches you with question to whether she or Gloria is entitled to the legacy. Okay, now the issue here is whether the amendment was valid or not valid. Okay, so the question here is whether the this thing, what do they call it? The revocation of the will was valid or invalid. Automatically, by just looking at it, you can say that this was an invalid revocation. Why? Because this guy did not follow the formal route of creating a new will and then having a revocation clause. So even though it seems like it's invalid, it has to be referred to the High Court. The High Court, when they get to the High Court, they will look at certain things to determine whether the will was valid or invalid. In my opinion, this revocation clause is going to be valid. Why? Because the court will look at whether this thing was signed. It was signed because the guy signed next to the name that he crashed to show that it was him who indeed executed the will or the revocation, essentially. And then there are other things that the court will consider, 3 or 4. You will see them when we start dealing with the memorandum. Okay, let me just open the memorandum now, and then we'll go through the memorandum. Okay, so this is our sorry, let me just open the proper one. This is not the proper memorandum. Let me open the real memorandum. Just give me a second. Just give me a second to open the memorandum, then we can deal with it thoroughly. No excuses. Just give me a second to open it. Guys, here at Simplified Academy, we simplify things. That is what we are selling here, basically. We are selling simplicity. That is all that we are selling. We are not selling board exams. We are not selling anything. We are selling simplicity. That's what we sell. Don't be confused. So there's our memorandum. There's our little logo there, Academy, Simplified Academy. There's our WhatsApp number, 06 something. Oh, this is not the memo. I'm trying to find the memo, but there's a pile of documents here, so I'm struggling to find it. But I'm sure this is it, that I found it here. Let me look for it a little bit more. Okay, I couldn't find the proper one, so we're just gonna use the one that I have here. The original memo, I can't seem to find it, so we're just gonna use this one. So there is question 1. There it is. As you can see, there's Orange Farm, Farm Implements, File Furniture, Liberty Life Policy, Old Mutual, Toyota Land Cruiser, Standard Bank, Absa Investment, Powerhouse, Sakile, Rest Assurance. Those were the assets. And then the liabilities, we have the master's fee, which was going to be 7,000, executor's fee 134, advertising. Those are this one starting from here going down. These are the liabilities that you were given. It's free marks. And then we have 3 claims against estate, Bank, FNB, and mortgage bond. And then we had estate duty in this question. That is what's different with the question for this year. There was an estate duty. Okay, there's our cash recapitulation account. There it is. We simplify it for you, as you can see. It's not complicated. It's just there with its own little table. Then the distribution account, obviously, Angela gets her inheritance. And then the income and expenditure, obviously, we're going to have the Absa investment, which is the interest after the date of death. We are going to have the expenditure with the executor's fee. Remember, the executor gets 6% of the income after date of death, this one here. And then the Standard Bank current account loss. You remember the difference that I told you, the 19,000 and the 18,700. The difference was 300. The loss is an expenditure. It's going to come here, and then we're going to have that. Then we're going to have our estate addendum. Yeah, this one I'm not going to explain, but there it is. Goes down, deemed property and such and such. And then let's just go to the bottom of, there's question 2 there also. You can just stop along the way. Question 3. Question 4, all the questions are there. Those ones, they don't really matter. Like I said, I explained them. And then just scan this and text us on WhatsApp for oral or anything like that. Then join our course, then you're going to pass. Other than that, guys, I hope this was helpful to you guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Just scan this, text us. We are always ready. There's an automatic reply, everything. Other than that, have a great day.